Okay, guys, we'll go to race number 6 on the card. And it is, let me get the name right here, the Laser Electrical 1400 for the Open Handicappers, Steve. Run us through this market.
So we posted Osaka and Sheriff 350 each of 2. There is a little bit of separation there, but don't take a huge note, punters. Osaka 350 holds that price since the opening call. Sheriff just out a turn fractionally, 3.5 to 3.6. Red Hussar $8, third line. Thunder $8.50. Stand Tall first up for Ralph Manning and Ashwin Goodensami at $9. Double figures around Manrico, bouncing between 10 and 11. La Sabalier first up for Karen Thurston at 16. She has the same quote as New York Jazz and also Tannehill. Big Mike bouncing between 18 and 21. Has to carry big weight even though it does have a 3 kg claim. On the Rocks, $21. El Coolio, the Ranky at 31. So no lead here. Osaka Sheriff held the call for the majority of the first 24 hours, but you just see a slight separation, 350 v 360.
Yeah, okay. Before we go to BP, Steve, not a lot of money probably in the race in general at this stage, but for Osaka, would we be expected to see more for Osaka if he was ready to rock and roll first up?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Considering you look at its very impressive first up record, almost impeccable, 3 wins first up after a 90-day spell.
Yeah.
And a light career to date. I think it's had, 5 or 6 wins to its name. So overall, a very, very impressive strike rate in terms of the winning bracket. Osaka, he's back from Australia. He's had 2 trials leading in. That's round about the recipe he's had leading into previous campaigns. But I marked him significantly longer at $3.50. I would have wanted to play this market where you almost dangle the carrot and firm him rather than hold the baby and then drift accordingly on race day. So 350 is a little bit skinny, and that's showing in the marketplace considering we've seen basically no sense on him.
Yeah, interesting, Pops. I mean, know the quality of the horse, Osaka, and he's got that good record. How do you sort of see this race from a betting perspective? Is there an opportunity if potentially if Osaka is a little bit cold in this market?
Look, maybe. Overall, I found this race a very, very tough race to try and work out. I don't know. There's a few horses here that are out of form. There's a couple of horses here that are fresh up into the race. One horse has found himself at the top of the market who was very good in Sheriff, who prior to that hadn't won for nearly 2 years. So it's just a really tricky race, isn't it? And I really didn't know what to do with the race, to be honest with you. Osaka is a runner, as Stephen said, has got the fresh up record and look, has to be a contender on what the horse has shown us in the past and in the state. So that puts Osaka in the right spot to say that he's a contender in the race. Probably hoping for a little bit of a shift in the marketplace to work around that $3.23 mark to give you that confidence that maybe he is ready to go. So I almost keep defaulting back to Sheriff with how the horse won last time out. He was a very good winner. He's going to, look, it was just nice to see him back in that vein of form. I mean, we all know his past form. I mean, he was a horse who was, placed over 2,000, 2,400 metres, Waikato Cups, all those type of good races that we saw from him as a 3- and 4-year-old, and maybe a glimmer of his best once again. I thought Red Hussar out of that same race is one of those ones near the bottom of the book and Thunder, those type of runners who are, again, a little bit hard to work out. Red Hussar would be that other horse I'm trying to find the each way. But what about Manrico? Manrico almost falls into the same category as Sheriff. It's been a long time since we've seen Manrico winning, but does get 4 kilos off with Ace Lawson Carroll, down to 51 kilos. Beat a very good field of open handicappers, the likes of Summer Passage. A little bit of dig in the ground, possibly looking for more rain to fall, but maybe Manrico's finally worked it all out and wants to win again. So, yeah, tough race, banana skin race, really.
Well, yeah, if you're talking about Manrico, probably sums up the race to some degree, that there are plenty of chances if we're not back in Osaka.
That's right. Well, that probably means On the Rocks is going to win because it's been a little time since On the Rocks has won a race as well. So, yeah, tough race.
Paul, talk us through it. Give us some pearls here. We need them by the sound of it.
Well, BP's been through like half the field already and we still haven't settled on a winner. And I just think that goes to show just how tough it is to pick one out. But Osaka was fair and flying before the trip across the Tasman, and that didn't pan out as Connections would have hoped. But anything like that sort of form, and you've just got to have Osaka in there. So I'm happy to go with the 350 at the moment. I don't want to look of Les Sablier. I know, fresh up, but a couple of kilos off with Madu in the saddle. and was putting some nice races together last campaign. So, yeah, Les Sablier at 16s.
Yeah, okay. First up, Le Sablier is placed at the track, I see. Steve, wide open if there's no money for Osaka here. I mean, Stand Tall a chance. Thunder's consistent. Tannehill, we don't know quite what we're going to get, but, you know, Big Mike on the rocks. Help us. Help us.
It's a tough one.
Yeah.
Tough one, Thaddeus.
You were pretty keen on Sheriff last time, though.
Yeah, I was keen. I was a bit gutted they didn't back up, even though it was on that testing track conditions. They've opted for the horse. Have a slight freshen up, just 3 weeks between runs, and back on a better surface at Rotorua. Now trained at the beach. The Murdochs took over the training around about a year ago off Roger James and Robert Wellwood, who did a stellar job for a horse that been a little bit of in and out in terms of issues. I think it's had a couple of back issues, Sheriff, and obviously the chiropractor's been full-time around the individual for the last couple of years. But look, I was very taken on its run, just forgetting that its history and just going on pure that one run at Tauranga when it was so impressive, carrying a big weight. Andrew Coulter had to be a top ride that day. Used a decent gate, trailed, found that slipstream out early in the straight and gradually got to Celebra in the last 100 metres. So it was a well-timed and judged ride from Andrew Coulter, and doesn't have to carry a big weight here. Drops to 56.5, so it's well placed in terms of weights and measures via a few of his opposition at Tauranga who finished him behind him, Sheriff. And yeah, it's like BP mentioned, that word default. It's almost the default selection, Sheriff. Obviously, I rated him clear top selection in terms of the marketplace. Osaka, I rated, as I mentioned earlier, a little bit higher around that 650 mark, and Sheriff I rated around about a 26% chance, so 380. So there's no real edge in the price, but that's what the kind of race it looks to be and unfold. So, yeah, maybe default to Sheriff. Like I mentioned, I was very keen at a nice price last start before he was scratched, but this may still be his race.
Yeah, okay. Your old mate Big Mike, I see, resuming BP. You have a couple of shekels for him, surely.
Look, what I will suggest here with Big Mike, if you go back to his last preparation, he ran at Awapuni, which is on today. He finished into 5th position over 1,500 metres, and then he won the Hawke's Bay Cup second up. This is a very similar plan to the Hawke's Bay Cup coming up in a couple of weeks' time. So just keep a little wary watch on what Big Mike does here on Saturday, and then it's maybe a chance to unload on Big Mike if he's ready to go for the Hawke's Bay Cup. In the end, I went with Red Hussar. I actually think Red Hussar is the one that's at a touch of value, and Sheriff is the other selection I like in the race. So maybe a little split bet on both of those horses. Look, Red Hussar this time last year was in terrific form leading towards the Easter handicap, and that is clearly a goal again for that horse. Was winning around the same time in a 74 over 1,600 metres before running 4th behind Demonetisation in the Easter. So there's just a couple of nice little bit of synergy around this horse with where he sits at the moment. Yes, this is 1,400 metres, but he's got a record at 1,400 metres, so he sits at around $8, and he's going to get a couple of kilos off too with Chelsea Burton aboard, which will all help. So I thought he was the one on the each way, and Sheriff the other pick.
Yeah, okay. $8 Red Hussar. Paul, where did you land in the end?
I'm happy to go with Osaka. I think if they're ready, we've got a race on our
We're going to be
hands
able to watch that price, aren't we? That's
Yes.
going to be the key.
Well, I hope Steve's right. I hope we get a wee bit of a drift and we can get up around the 450 mark.
Well, we could go SP.
Oh, wow, a new product.
New product. We
Yeah.
could probably touch on that a bit later, but that might be one. Osaka for SP.
Osaka and Les Sablier.
You can have a little dabble at that fresh, are you?
Oh, well, yeah, they're both fresh, so yeah.
Yeah, good point. You make
Hard. You've got 4 horses here that present first start.
Yeah.
A lot of horses probably not in their sweet spot in terms of distance. Just quickly on Manrico, last start over 1,400, just crunching some numbers. Went out and led, first 800, 3.1 lengths above par, so he went out fairly quick. So you'd say on that alone that he was a little bit vulnerable in the last 100, 200 metres, but he held on. So I'm just questioning that overall form. He had Summer Passage, who's a few lengths off his best. And I know To Illicit finished 3rd, but she was on a heavy deck carrying 62 kegs. So I'm just not sure about the Manrico form line coming into tomorrow's assignment.
Yeah, okay. Le Sablier first up. Stand Tall. Stand Tall first up as well. What about those runners?
Yeah, Stand Tall trialled up well. Ralph Manning's team always go well at Rotorua, which can be a key asset. Look, it'll put itself in the race. It has tactical speed from barrier 4. I just want to see it go around before it'd get Mike though, but I respect anyone that wants to have a little bit of a turn at it at a nice each way quote. But it's that kind of race, so no knock which way you want to go.
Yeah, okay. Pop's going for Sheriff and Red Hussar. Man barely standing. Pomawati. Lesablier and Sheriff. Yeah, Lesablier. Oh no, in Osaka. Sorry. Gonna wait for the drift there on Osaka. Not a lot of money at this stage, so do watch that price around Osaka 3.5 as it currently stands Friday morning.